piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Tuesday, moviegoers. Welcome to episode 304. Welcome to Godzilla times Kong. You're listening to a new episode of the Cine-Movie podcast. I am one of your hosts, Juan, and I am joined by the cast, the crew, the fella. Ed?
Hey, how's it going?
Zach?
Hey, we kind of
What's up,
teased
guys?
it. Was I going to be on it or was I not? Here I am.
Well, it's definitely a tease, and we like teases here at the Cine-Movie podcast. Thank you, everybody out in podcast land. You're listening to a new episode as we transition over to Tuesdays. So you got our Godzilla double feature, one on Sunday, one on Tuesday. And if you're watching us live on Facebook or Imisawa Productions YouTube channel, you can watch on the go, anytime, any place, anywhere. Man, how's everybody been so far? Good start to the week. Feels kind of weird doing these on Tuesday now.
Mm-hmm. Very.
But no, it's good for everybody. Everybody's able to fit into a schedule, so we will be welcoming you all with a happy Tuesday from now on. So, but yeah, it's been a fun week. If you guys did not listen to our last episode 303, we had a absolutely fun conversation about Godzilla -1. It is honestly one of my favorite episodes of the year so far. Or if you can say one of my favorite episodes of the new 300. The new 300s. So you can go back and listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts, including you can find all of our links on the social media. Ed, what are the social media links? What are our social media tags?
Man, we're all over. We're on the Facebook at the Cine-Movie podcast. That is CINEMEN movie podcast. We're on Instagram as well as X now. I'm sorry. I can't still get used to that. / the Cine-Movie podcast. X as CINEMEN 405, and you can also email at CINEMEN921 at gmail.com. Email us some ideas, thoughts, how you like the movies we're going over, how you like any of us, if you want us to like jump off a bridge, or if you think our accent isn't where we're from or something, like go from there. Easy.
Also, you can hit all of our links up on the link tree, which is on the Instagram. So if you guys are like, man, where else can I listen to the episode at? It's on the Instagram. Click the Instagram. That's Instagram / the Cine-Movie podcast. And then click the links. And there is a link tree, and you can have all of the links to the Spotify, Podbean, TuneIn, Stitcher, Apple Podcast. There's also a link to the Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, so you guys can listen on the go wherever, anywhere you listen to your other favorite podcasts. You can also find us on Prescribed Films Network. It's something we haven't talked about or focused on in a while, but we're going to have some special guests on here real soon from the network. So it's a huge podcast network. If you guys haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. It's prescribedfilms.com. There you can find a bunch of other fantastic podcasts, Attack of the Killer podcast, Plastastic podcast, the Movie Defenders are on there, and yours truly, the Cine-Movie podcast. So check it out, hashtag the PFPN, or just visit prescribedfilms.com. We're on a network, so go check us out. And we're doing a bunch of other great stuff as well too here soon. So, man, we're evolving. The show's evolving. Our audience is getting broader and brighter. Demolition Man became our highest grossing downloaded episode this past few weeks with over 9,000 downloads in just 6 days, I believe. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and listen to that. It was a fun conversation me, Jay, and Ed had. Um, so yeah, please do us a favor. But guys, let's get into some recent watches. I know it's only been a few days, but I'll start this train so we can get it moving. Um, it's out, and I gotta say, I watched the first episode, and it was absolutely orgasmic. The first episode of The Bear, season
Mhm.
3, fan fucking tastic. Jeremy Allen White, again, it was just the first episode, but I'm giving him his Aaron Rodgers jizz due because it was just a fantastic show. Golly, the first episode was really good. Um, but I'm sad, man. I'm already one episode in. There's 9 to go, and they're only 25, 30 minutes. Zach, have you started yet?
I it, it's on my to-do list. I got it saved in my queue. I really wanted like you wanted to at least get through episode 1 or 2 before this show. But yeah, I just ran out of time. Yeah, I've heard mixed things about season 3. It's not as good as season 2, but you know, it's the viewer's opinion. So
Yeah. So far, so good for me. I kind of went on a little binge Godzilla watch after our -1 episode. I checked out Shin Godzilla, Godzilla 97, Godzilla 2014, and then the movie that we're talking about today. And then, just for some shits and giggles and a laugh, I watched Major Pain again. Um, that's always a fun movie to watch. Kind of put a smile on my face, so it's always good when something like that can happen. So, Zach, we'll start with you, man. You check anything out in the last 2 days?
no, dude, I literally had to put a gun to my head and say you will be on this episode. So
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
I had to scurry around and get through Godzilla times Kong. So
We'll talk about
that's
it
all
here
I
in just
watched.
a bit.
What about you, Ed?
Man, I actually did funny enough, there's a movie on Netflix and it's called Sex Tuplets from 2019. Marlon Wayans. I don't know, man. It's definitely not bad, but some of the hijinks it gets up to is kind of overdone. Which
You enjoyed it.
Yes, huh?
You enjoyed it, didn't you?
I haven't really gotten like fully into a movie like that in a while, because the only one I can really compare it to would be like the Nutty Professor or something like that, to be fully fair and honest. 'cause
So it's
he
got to do
plays,
with his weight?
No,
Oh. Well, then why do you
no,
compare it to the Nutty Professor?
he plays multiple people.
Oh, okay.
Some that are big, yes. Brother and sister that are larger. To himself and then another guy that are pretty much the same size.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got one that is like on the verge of death, basically.
Mm.
It's kind of crazy, and all
Well,
of them want something from him. Like
I
he
get
doesn't meet any of them without like wanting something from him, something big too. A kidney, $10,000 bail.
I know what will be on my watch list next week, and I'm about to run through all 3 Beverly Hills Cop just to get to the new one on 4th of July. I'm super, super excited. I'm a little disappointed it's not going to be on the big screen, but then again, I'm also just super excited I can watch it at home, anywhere, anytime. So, anything else to check out?
Pros
Ed, or
and cons.
just that?
Just that at the moment. I didn't realize that it had already came out. But The Boys, I'm going to check out that pretty soon as well.
Nice.
My wife and I we're excited to see that. Kind of go from there. So yeah.
Good.
Just to get you hyped, Johnny. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F reviews are out, and they say it's the best of the franchise. So I'm excited to see what you have to say about it.
Well, the first one is pretty amazing, so we'll see.
A return
about
to
that.
form. A return to form for Eddie Murphy, as they're saying.
Okay, so I'm excited. We'll talk about that next.
So you'll
Tuesday.
hate it.
Yeah, no.
So you'll hate it.
we'll talk about that next Tuesday. Zach, you'll have to tune in if you won't be talking Maxine with us to hear my thoughts. But guys, I'm excited. It's our first top 5 of us 3 just us three, in quite a while. So let's get ready to talk the top five. All right, guys, we are talking our top five favorite Godzilla movies. Zach has been hard at work at this since I told him we're doing a top five Godzilla films.
I really
So I think
have, honestly.
I think this is going to be fun. I think it's also going to be fun to see where they line up with us and why maybe they're so near and dear to our hearts. Anybody have any honorable mentions? No.
Nah.
I have three. Yeah.
Okay, I'll rapid fire through mine real quick if you guys don't mind. Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay.
Zach?
I got the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla from 1974. That was a very oftenly played one. I had the VHS of it when I was little, so played it off and on. I'm going to put it in Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, the Apple TV show that came out last year. I liked it. Pretty fun. Got renewed for season 2, so we'll see where that goes. And one of your honorable mentions, Godzilla 2000. Saw that in the theater, and I remember having a blast with it. So
Nice. Ed, would you like to go ahead and start off with number 5?
Number 5, I'm probably going to get some shit about this. It is what it is. 1998 Godzilla, man.
Yeah.
That one holds a lot for me just because it was the first one I ever experienced. I'd heard of Godzilla before that, but at the same time, like, I never knew until I seen that what anything of Godzilla was. I knew it was a big ass lizard that could throw like some kind of fire out of its mouth. I thought it was like a dragon, honestly, because I was just like, that sounds just like a dragon. What the hell? But this one, yes, did deviate a lot from natural or usual course. But I think there are some upsides to what they were wanting to do.
Oh, yeah. And we did a whole episode about it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Just the execution was not the greatest. So,
yeah.
I mean, we all said that the CGI does not stand the test of time for 2003, let alone 2024. So there is that. Yeah, but Godzilla 1998, I still love you.
My number 5 is going to be the original, the 1954 film. I think this film has to be viewed if you watch Godzilla and if you're like, man, I really enjoy this creature and I enjoy this character, and I think you have to at least check out the original one at least once. And you know what? Does it hold up? Can you see some stuff that you probably shouldn't see on the Blu-ray? Yeah, but it's still like a really fun original monster movie, and it found its way onto my top 5. So Godzilla 1954 is number 5 for me. Zach, number 5 for you, sir.
Ed, I'm going to follow you. Number 5 is Godzilla 1998. This is the most watched movie I've seen in theaters. I saw it 7 times. That's the most I've ever seen a movie in theaters. Loved it. I get, like you said, Ed, I get the hate for it. I understand it doesn't look like Godzilla, but I agree with you. What they're trying to do, they're trying to do something different, give him a different look. Yeah, the CGI is spotty. I get it, but it was a whole hard classic. I had the VHS, I had the DVD, and now I got the 4K. So it's one that definitely, I think I can't make a list without this movie in the Godzilla list. So
nice. Ed, number 4 for you.
Number 4 is the OG, the Godzilla 1954. Like you said, I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't seen a fully updated version. The most updated I've seen is like, on a streaming for that matter. But this one, I don't know, man. There's a certain thing that some guy sweating in a 300-pound Godzilla suit just makes you say, you know what? I respect you for it, man. That this came out of, you know, what, 9 years later after W2 ended. Without, I mean, they're wrong. Without a lot of that, you wouldn't have a bunch of anime. You wouldn't have Godzilla. You wouldn't have a lot like that from Japanese culture, for that matter. It's crazy on how things changed around that time to even this, and then further. Messed up time, but at the same time, like, it brought this. So it's like, okay, like I said, strange, but not too shabby, I guess.
Number four for me is going to be Shin Godzilla. I watched it just right after -1, after we talked about it, and you know what? I thought it was fantastic. I thought the way they put the monster together was a little crazy, but the way he evolved and changed from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end is something I haven't seen in a Godzilla movie. And again, this was almost like a war movie surrounded by Godzilla. Toho knows what they're doing, man. They know how to put together a Godzilla film. They know exactly how to put the humans around in a Godzilla movie. So I highly recommend it if you can't find it anywhere. I know it's really cheap on Amazon. But yeah, number 4 for me is Shin Godzilla. Zach, number 4 for you?
Number 4 for me is going to be 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters. Really just a power down of a movie, and they pull out a lot of the classic villains. King Ghidorah, Rodan, bring Mothra into it. It was such a thrill to see what today's technology could do to bring those characters to life, and it did not disappoint. The Antarctica battles between Godzilla and King Ghidorah is awesome. It's like probably the highlight of the movie for me.
Is that the second? You said the second Godzilla, right?
Yeah, after the 2014 one. Yep. And it really sets up this whole, we'll talk about it, but the whole monsterverse, like, these creatures, they're everywhere. And we'll probably talk about where this franchise could go. So that's my number 4.
All right, Edward, top 3. Give us number 3.
Number 3, I'm going to go ahead and go with 2014's legendary Godzilla. You got to go ahead and understand that this one brought this into a new generation, a new beast, a new universe for the film and all that good stuff. And I mean, that with Kong Skull Island are the two original of this legendary run. So we'll see, in 10 years how it fares. But I think it's going good right now. We're talking about it. So there's that.
It's 10 years. It came out 10 years ago this year.
That's
2014.
True.
So yeah. So we're talking about it. That's awesome.
But as far as that, with Aaron Taylor, with some of
Johnson.
Johnson. I just want to say Thomas. With Aaron Taylor Johnson, I thought he'd have more of a role later on. I thought he'd be brought back once at least.
Oh yeah.
Maybe even Cranston, I guess, but negative. Serizawa has been the longest running Godzilla human so far, and I mean he died in King of the Monsters in the second film. So
we'll talk about that.
There's that, but it seems like they are only keeping the Kong family alive. But yeah, that original Godzilla, it was cool that it didn't give you the full shot of the creature for a while. It was cool that it was against the Mutos predominantly. Showed a lot about nuke and nuclear technology and like what the radiation did to the creatures and all kinds of different junk like that. So I thought the lore behind it was really cool. So
yeah, that movie that movie didn't make my list, but it's still very, very good. I think it
Mhm.
holds up really well 10 years later. And, a lot of people complain that Godzilla is not in the movie that much, but I think you get the right amount of them, to be honest, with
But
that
it's
type
the
of
same.
film.
At the same time, you can argue the same with going back to a movie monster like Jaws, and it's
Yeah.
Jaws. I mean, it's the same thing, but that's what helped that, for that matter. That's what helped set the tone, pace, and all that, because you weren't sure of what you were expecting yet. You weren't sure of how tall Godzilla was going to be, how monstrous he is going to look, how gigantic to people he is going to look. And I mean, in that, they even, shout out to Jared Kiso. He got in there a little bit. Done a halo jump with, Jared Kiso, a Canadian actor, off Letterkenny, and now Shorzy. So that was cool just to see him in a little bit. In different things like that. It was cool to see stuff like that. And now
That's your number 3.
yeah.
That's our Shorzy connection for this episode.
Well, going from that though to what they're doing now is a completely different thing, because it's not necessarily that they're like
Yeah.
friends and aligned and cool.
Well, yeah, I'll talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Number 3 for me, Ed. You said plenty. Number 3 for me is going to be the 2014 Godzilla. This is probably, I didn't know where to put this one at. I felt like I should have probably put it lower, just because with the length and with how much talking there is, and how much dialogue there is in one of these movies. I'm like, I don't know where I would ever watch this again. But like Ed said about the creature popping up here and there, it still had its feels. So number 3 for me is the 2014 Godzilla. Zach, what about you?
Number 3, I'm going old school, the original 1954 Godzilla. You guys, pretty much put the head on the nail of the coffin. I don't even know what that means, but okay. But I totally agree with your analysis, Johnny. If you're going to understand where Godzilla came from and what he represents, you have to go back and watch this movie. It's silly. It's ridiculous. Like you said, the visual effects, you clearly can tell it's a man in a rubber suit walking across like a constructed city of Japan. But it's fun. It's fun to see where this character came from. And it's just fun to see how much it's evolved since then, whether it be movies, visual effects, story. It was my first Criterion, believe it or not, when I started figuring out what Criterion is. And it's a killer edition if you ever get a chance to buy it. Speaking of which, Barnes & Noble sale this month. But anyway, number 3, 1954 Godzilla.
Nice. Ed, number 2.
Number 2, I'm going to go ahead and put Godzilla versus Kong. I thought that was kind of a cool one, to where they gave enough screen time between both. They gave both, fights against each other, and then ultimately not really pitted them together against something else, but they had to come together to face off against something else. So not necessarily saying either one of them's better, but they gone ahead and were able to team up to take on something that was kind of better. So there's that. So that would be my number 2. Nice. Godzilla vs. Kong.
My number 2, you both say you enjoyed it so much, but it was so low on your list. Number 2 for me is Godzilla 98. I rewatched it, and you know what? It was just a nostalgic feel. I didn't think the CGI was that bad going back and re-looking at it. If I get some kind of flack for that movie being high up on the list, fuck you. I think that movie is fantastic. I think it's one of the only Godzilla movies that makes you care about the humans. I think it also is one of the only movies that uses the city. This is one of the only American movies that uses the city as its own character. Having Godzilla dive down into New York City. The score, is it maybe 20 minutes too long? Probably. But this movie is fantastic. Not only does the movie use New York City as a character, it also uses the rain and the weather as a character. So I think this movie is fantastic. I enjoy it. I'm also with you guys. It's one of the first Godzilla movies I've ever seen on the big screen. Um, and it just made it feel fun. Since when's the last time a Godzilla movie had that much Hollywood hype around it? And you talk about gadgets, restaurants getting in on the action, the
Oh
toys, the
yeah.
shirts. This movie
Taco
blew
Bell. Yeah.
yeah, this movie blew up everything about Godzilla. So the marketing was fantastic. And it's a guilty pleasure. So it's one of my favorite movies. I love the director, no matter how corny or cheesy some of his action is. I'll be watching another one of his action movies real soon with Independence Day. So he's a fun director, and he knows how to make things blow up. So I thought the effects were fantastic still. So number 2 for me is Godzilla 98. Ed, finish us off. What's your number 1?
That's my number 2.
Oh, Zach, I
That was
forgot all
my
about
goal.
you.
It's fine.
Zach, what's your
It's
number
cool,
2?
You know. My number 2, like you had, Godzilla versus Kong. You take 2 of the biggest monsters in cinema history, Godzilla and King Kong, and put them together. It was an awesome time at theater. All of us, all 3 of us, and Craig went and saw it. It was one of the first big movies we saw post pretty much the big wave of COVID in 2021. It was a fun ride, excellent action sequences. The aircraft carrier sequence where Kong punches the hell out of Godzilla is awesome. And the Hong Kong fight with the illumination all over the city is incredible. We debated Team Kong who had the better characters, Team Kong or Team Godzilla, with Millie Bobby Brown or Jai, the little girl. It's hearsay. You don't really care about that. You want monsters to beat the hell out of each other, and you got that, and it's awesome.
Fair.
Number 1, Ed. What's your number 1 Godzilla movie?
Man, I had to go ahead.
I feel like we're all gonna have this at number 1, but I'm gonna be curious if not.
I had to go ahead and have a tie on this, honestly.
Okay.
Godzilla -1 and Godzilla King of the Monsters. -1 and King of the Monsters couldn't be different, but about the same thing. -1 is a story about the pilot who was supposed to be a kamikaze, but basically dived out of it, so to say, and ended up in the world of Godzilla after that, and on the front lines of the world of Godzilla, for that matter, too. So he got his redemption arc in that. So it was a huge story there. Godzilla had a big story, and who knows, we might have another. You will have to see it for yourself. We've talked about it on Sundays, so go and review 303. This is 304. However, my number A or B, whatever you want to look at it as, Godzilla King of the Monsters. This one got to show Godzilla in a little bit different of a light. It got to literally kind of upgrade him. Serizawa died to upgrade him and revamp his life. A lot going on in this movie. There really was a lot going on in this movie. This one is, like you said earlier, Zach, it's got a lot of old monsters for that matter. There's a Muto that comes back. There's several different Titanus monsters that you see, but the 4 big ones are Mothra, Ghidorah, Rodan, and of course, for the namesake, Godzilla. 2-on-2, go from there. But I mean, with that one, you finally see Godzilla kind of settle into his own for a bit, if you will. So, yeah.
Nice. Number 1A for Ed, Godzilla
-1. Number 1B is Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Nice. My number 1, no given. We talked about it the other day. Godzilla -1. It's the best Godzilla movie in the franchise, hands down. I'll argue with somebody until I turn blue in the face. Name another one that's just as good. So that's my number 1. Zach?
My number 1 is my number 1 is Godzilla -1. I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Go listen to our thoughts on it. It's an incredible film. It deserves your attention, and it's streaming on Netflix, so go watch it.
And that being said, guys, let's dig into what we are talking about today. Godzilla times Kong, the New Empire. IMDb currently has it at a 6.2. Rotten Tomatoes is at 54%. The Metascore is 47%. The Letterboxd averages at a 2.8. With a budget of $150 million, it grossed a little over $560 million at the box office, with a release date of March 29th, 2024 this year. Starring Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, Dan Stevens, Kaylee Hoddle, Alex Ferns, Fela Chin, directed by Adam Wingard. The epic battle continues with an explosive, action-packed adventure that follows Kong's journey to find his family through the undiscovered layer of Hollow Earth, and what he uncovers inadvertently brings forth the most dangerous threat to mankind yet, one that only can be countered by the combined, ever-evolving forces of Kong and Godzilla. Zach, we'll start with you, man. Do you remember the first time you got to see this? And what was it like revisiting it for the episode?
Yeah, so obviously went and saw it in the theater. So I got my tin bucket. Had to go all out for this. Here's Godzilla on one side and Kong on the other. Here's the cup. Even came with two little portable little figures with
cool.
Kong and Godzilla. So yeah, definitely saw this in the theater. I've been a fan of this character and this legendary franchise since it began in 2014. So I was obviously going to go see it. Walked out, had a lot of fun with it. Man, I was like, yeah, that's what this movie should be. No questions asked. And when he said, I was a little afraid on the rewatch. Is like, is this going to be like cheesy and stupid? And after obviously talking about -1 and seeing that and everything, and honestly, no. I still have the same thoughts, same feelings, and it's just like, yeah, that's what this movie is, and it's a different iteration, and we'll talk about it.
We will talk about it. I did not get to see this on the big screen, unfortunately. I would think it would have been pretty cool to see it on the biggest screen possible. But I did check it out on Blu-ray as soon as it hit, shelves. I've only seen this movie twice. After my first initial watch, I was kind of disappointed with it. Overall story arc and CGI. And then with the rewatch today, I honestly felt the same way. I was still a little disappointed by it, and even though it was only, I think it's the shortest Godzilla movie of the new legendary films at an hour and 50 minutes, I was still kind of twiddling my thumbs. So we'll talk about it today. Ed, what about you? Do you remember the first time you seen it? Did you get to see it in the theaters, and what was it like revisiting it for the episode?
Negative, no theaters. I got to see it basically on the Voodoo account. Thought it was great. I've seen it 3 times so far since then. Obviously, that says to some degree what I think about it already. So there is that.
Nice. So let's get into it. If you guys have not seen this movie, we're about to spoil the shit out of it. Not very much to spoil. We're at 33 minutes if you're listening in podcast land. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook Live, give us a pause at 34 minutes and go check it out. I believe it's already on Max, right?
It hits Max on July 4th. So.
There we go. Look, we're talking about it right before it hits Max. So
there you go.
I dug the opening. I dug the opening a lot. This movie, honestly, which it kind of is, it's pretty much Kong 2, with a little bit of Godzilla sprinkled into it. So,
true.
You made the joke on Sunday. They should have called it Kong X Godzilla, to be honest.
Yeah. But honestly, I think the reason they put Godzilla in the main title is just maybe for ticket sales. I don't know. I don't know how Kong Skull Island did, but I think maybe just to hype it up, we'll put Godzilla's name in there. But I think this would have worked perfectly as like a Kong 2, as at least the title wise. It starts off honestly showing you with his tooth, and it's like a pretty much Kong 2 opening. What do you guys think of the opening?
I dug it. I thought it was a great kind of reintroduction to these characters. Kong being on the run for these like Hollow Earth wolf type things. I will say, like the creature design in these movies are fun, especially in the Hollow Earth. Just what kind of things it can come up with, and all this and that. And you know, a lot of people probably thought the tooth thing was stupid, but how does a giant gorilla, if his teeth is broken, how does he get fixed? So,
But what was the whole point of him putting in a silver tooth? Was it to show that he's different from the other apes at the end of the movie? What is
I
the
guess, yeah.
what is the time consuming of taking 10 minutes to put a tooth in King Kong?
I think it's the idea that, like you said, it sets up the idea that Scar King, when we get to that villain, he automatically knows there's something different with Kong. Not so much that he's not with his tribe or whatever, but he's around humans, and he's like, why the hell would you do that? You know.
So it's kind of like Amy from Congo, how the other apes make fun of her because she knows sign language. Me, Amy. Me, Amy.
All right, next week we're doing Congo, so we can get this over with.
With the opening of Kong, for that matter, I don't think it's necessarily anything for him to be different. I think it's still just to keep the human interaction going, for that matter, as well as bringing Kong up from the Hollow World. Because there's got to be something to bring him up other than just like, I got my ass whooped, need help, kind of stuff. Because I don't know, it's just not that.
But that's kind of what that is. I mean, like, he needs Godzilla to help defeat Scar King.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, basically, there's got to be something to keep him still interacting with the humans other than just being in the Hollow World. There's got to be something to get them down there, and there's got to be something for Godzilla to want to go down there and kind of start evolving and then getting pissed off and all that. So I think that's kind of the precursor to that.
So the whole point behind the tooth is to set up the interactions from what is eventually going to happen between the two and the humans later on in the movie.
That's what I think, because to me it doesn't make much sense either.
It's time for Kong to come on up for his regular dentist checkup. Come on up, boy.
And then putting in that character, the man, the male character,
Trapper.
Wasn't bad, but at the same time, like, just to introduce that character, because I mean, he was integral in helping make Kong able to kind of do what he was able to do, honestly.
Yeah,
so there is
that's true.
My favorite character of the movie got introduced. I do enjoy Elaine and Bernie as far as just those two characters and what they bring to the table. And I enjoyed one more than the other. But I do think that the whole point of the creature, and to me, the movie makes the story more complicated than it probably should be. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here for Kong, we're here for Godzilla, and I don't know. I just felt I didn't think the story needed to be as complicated for one of these kind of movies. What do you guys think?
I think it was a good story just because you've got different elements. You've got elements that could hurt not only just Kong and Zilla, but the world as it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, with King Scar or Scar King's enslavement of Shimo, that's a huge thing right there. Shimo, I mean, honestly, a lot of people out here are calling Shimo the most powerful Titan ever. Literally walking, Shimo's freezing everything around her. Let alone the what glacier breath or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think she's called Shimo because she's half Mo and half she, or?
I don't know. I have no idea. She's more than just she.
Here, Johnny.
But with Shimo, for that matter, it's kind of a sad story in a way, because yes, she brought on apparently the last ice age, but at the time, now she's fully enslaved by this guy, and he's doing what he wants to do. He's just chilling. He's,
Yeah.
she's having all this pain basically put towards her with the crystal spike that he's got, and
I kind of thought that the character of Jai, the little girl, she was definitely one of the better human characters in Godzilla versus Kong. Like, I think we can all agree that King Kong had the better characters in that movie. I kind of got, I don't know what the right word, not irritated, but just kind of like it's kind of lackluster. Her storyline of like, oh, she can feel the tremors from a hollow earth, all this and that. She's the last of her civilization, but not really, because they, do this whole side story of going all the way down there. Which, I mean, she does play the part. She plays the key part of bringing Mothra back to life, essentially.
Well, she was the last AOA of the Skull Island, for that matter. So she apparently was in prophecy to be that person to bring Mothra back.
Next thing you know, they're going to put helmets on the kid, and she's going to connect to the creatures like they do in Avatar, and just, I don't know. I agree with you, Zach. It did kind of just feel a little pointless and kind of feel a little silly. Just the introduction and how she kept going in her story in the movie. Because with you doing that, now you kind of just tie yourself into you tie yourself into having that storyline in the future again.
Yeah.
Instead of just having the focal point being the monsters, now you're like, hey, our monsters are sensitive. They're new age monsters. They have human feelings.
They're woke.
They're humans.
They're woke monsters. Yeah.
There you go.
And listen, I don't want to beat this dead horse all the way through this episode, but we just got done talking about the best example of how to deal with the human characters in Godzilla -1, and how that can not only like strengthen the movie but also define it.
Well, I mean,
I don't know how to describe it, because it goes back to, it's a different iteration. Godzilla -1 is directly from the Toho studios that made Godzilla. This is legendary Warner Brothers, and this is the American iteration of this character.
I will say this. You see the differences of cultures. You see the differences of thoughts, for that matter. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm not saying it like that.
I am.
But you've got a totally different set of thoughts, feelings, and understandings, of what should or shouldn't be there. With Toho, they basically are like, yeah, he's a monster. It is what it is. He got pissed because they started attacking him because they didn't know what he was. He was going after power. They were like, oh shit, giant lizard, kill it before it kills us, kind of thing.
It's almost like a DC conversation. Like, you had something really good with the horrific monster in 2014, and then you kind of just, let's create a universe around it. Let's create a multiverse. Let's create a monster verse. And it's like, do you really need that right off the bat?
Well, okay, here's the thing with that. When the 2014 Godzilla came out, and I was going to bring this up, that Godzilla is different than this Godzilla in the movie. Like, it's literally, they call it old Godzilla and evolved Godzilla. And you can tell he's slow. He watched the 2014 one, Johnny. He's slower walking. He's not as agile. He's takes his time on everything. In this one, he full on like runs, like dives and runs. It's like,
bro, that's so. The running is kind of here and there, but the full on dive, I was just
that pissed a lot of people off when that trailer came out. It was just like, why is he running? Godzilla doesn't run.
And throughout the thing, it was teasing the supercharged Godzilla. I guess going from the blue spikes to the then and now pink spikes. Like, what's the whole point? How does Godzilla get supercharged? Are you now putting him through a certain amount of powers? Like, come on now, really? You're making a evolved story that's just really over the head. It just started getting ridiculous in this movie.
Well, not really, because I mean, okay, you look at the point that they gone ahead and iterated in the movie. The area where Tiamat is actually at, the swimming dragon monster that he killed, the area to which that monster is in is the most energized area on Earth, apparently. And basically, he knows that he wants it. He knows something's coming, but he doesn't know how charged he needs to be. So he's like, go for the gusto. And Tiamat is pink because of that energy source. That energy source is glowing that radiation, that radiant pink. And I mean, whatever on the colors to me, but
yeah, it doesn't matter the colors. I think it's just kind of funny that the creature is, he can feel something in the air. I need to recharge my fucking powers. I'm no regular big gas Godzilla is no longer good enough.
Well, I disagree with you on that, because that's always been like the motive of this Godzilla. It's like anytime there's like a threat that he can sense, or like he knows there's like a bigger, badder presence, that's what like activates him. Like he's got to go after like whatever is threatening his turf.
Yep. And essentially he views Earth as his turf, all of it. And I mean, they're wrong. Like you got to think like there's what Earth Godzilla Earth or whatever, to where this thing is fucking incredibly big, like the regular Godzilla.
Every time one of these MonsterVerse Godzilla movies come out, they always have like the art of the movie. So here's like the new one, the art of Godzilla versus Kong, the New Empire, and it goes like through the characters, the Titans, the shooting locations, all this and that, like what kind of like art they came up with the movie. And you're right, Ed. It is a very different Godzilla, because here in the book, the different versions. Here's the old, here's the new, the most evolved, and you can tell like there is a significant difference between the two characters, or the two iterations of Godzilla.
Zach, for everybody who's listening to the podcast, describe to them what you're looking at.
Essentially, it's like it's like a coffee table book of like the art of the movie, essentially. And in the book, there's literally a section on here about the evolution of Godzilla, and it goes like it's a side-by-side comparison of like the 2014 one, how we look through like this one, or 2014 maybe King of Monsters, and even Godzilla versus Kong, to what he looks like in this movie with the bigger body mass, the pink scales, longer arms, more a defined face.
So it's almost like an updated encyclopedia for this new legendary franchise.
Well,
yes,
and then,
essentially.
Where do you get something like that for everybody that you're showing that to?
I mean, I got it at Barnes & Noble. It's like $60. It's really a great deal if you're, a fan of these movies. They've done one for the 2014 one, King of the Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong. It's awesome, honestly, if you're a fan of this type of franchise.
Nice.
And I'll show you guys another picture, which is probably one of the coolest visuals in this movie. And it literally just based off the director's cat is Godzilla laying in the Coliseum, which I think is like one of the coolest, best visuals in the movie, in my opinion.
Well, okay, so what I was mentioning is from Godzilla Planet Earth, or I'm sorry, Planet of the Monsters. Godzilla Earth is 300 meters tall. To put that in perspective, this Godzilla is basically 100 meters tall. So, I mean,
the funny thing is like, go ahead, finish your point. I'm sorry.
It's just that they're gonna like the evolution and all that is this. I've heard that this creature is 250,000 years old or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's been evolving to this point over a ton of time. So it's not like he doesn't know the Earth better than any and everything else living.
I think he does, because like he knows exactly where the radiation spots are.
Yep.
Like why else would he know that? Just randomly go to Antarctica to kill another Titan just to take over its turf?
Yep.
Well, and what I was going to say was, and you kind of hint on it a little bit, Ed, is like the dimensions of Godzilla throughout the history of film is like you know, yeah, like this one is supposed to be as tall as the Empire State Building. The 2014 one is supposed to be, you know, when you start thinking about it, it's just like, you know, how does that really work? But
well, because what the original was like 50 or 60 some odd feet tall or something like that. So
yeah.
I mean, huge. But
he's gotten littler, he's gotten bigger, he's like grown. A lot of people call this the Fat Godzilla because it's like, you know, we're Americans and, you know, we're fat, but whatever.
but
So,
they just go through all these different phases and different routines and styles and designs and stuff like that. And I mean, honestly, I think it's awesome. I think this one is cool. I mean, the pink was a little bit out of left field because I thought the blue was going to be his color, but all of a sudden this, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Well, the blue has always been his color. Like, you know, -1. It's always, with the exception of the black and white 1954 one, it's always, his spikes always turn blue when he's about to, you know, shoot fire out of its mouth.
But it was just more of a, what's this from? And I mean, they explained what it's from, so I was just like, okay, I can get with that. Like, you know.
Johnny, I know you kind of aren't as high on this movie as we are, but do you have any positives about it?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of positives about it. I like the scene where Kong is facing off against the red apes near the like the volcano local area right there. I do like how they initiate like the ending scene, how there's like a huge like 6-minute war between Godzilla and Kong and the other two creatures. I like Mothra coming into it and being reintroduced. I thought they were going to have a Batman Superman moment and Godzilla and Kong were going to be like, oh, you know Mothra? I know Mothra. We can be best friends now.
That would be killer if that's what happens. This. Here's the Star King versus Godzilla fight right here.
And then
I hear a cat in the background.
You know, Ed's always got to play with his puss. And then what's up with always the evil ape somewhere has to look like a Koba. Like,
that's true. That's true. I didn't think about that.
Koba's in this movie, and I'm kind of like, hey, that's Koba from Planet of the Apes. But no, I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if that was like a throwback or a nod, but I was like, that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot of positives to it. Even though the hour 50 minutes to me felt like maybe an extra 20 minutes too long. So it just kind of.
I thought it was, you know,
a lot of scenes just kind of like dragged for me. But they were mostly human scenes. Scenes that involved Gia, whatever the hell you want to call her, the deaf girl. And then honestly, like for all the action that was going on, I love the action, but the CGI it did not look as probably as good as it could have. I felt like a lot of the times I was watching it, I felt like I was watching just like some cut scenes in between like a video game cut scenes. So maybe even too much CGI. I don't know.
Yeah, once again, we got spoiled with -1 of like what this character could look like, and so you're just, when you watch this, you're like, oh, okay.
But see, let's look at that, because this movie was originally supposed to come out in 2023, right?
Yeah.
And it was, what is it? Was it September of 2023? Or
no, I think it was supposed to be actually March, like Godzilla versus Kong. I think
so. It got delayed a whole year.
Yeah.
So, not saying that would have helped any, but the ending with the dynamic duo, you know, them standing tall. I thought the scenes where Kong was eating and like where he ripped the stuff over him and the blood like splattered over him. The scenes where it's just Kong, like I said, I thought it was fantastic. I think this could have worked very, very well with just a Kong sequel with a very little bit of Godzilla sprinkled into it. To me, also, I felt like the new creatures were kind of overkill for me.
To
You
a
didn't like
point,
it when
yes.
Kong. You didn't like it when Kong beat the shit out of the other apes with Suko, essentially.
No.
Used him as like a melee weapon.
I did. I thought it was pretty cool.
That was the King Kong nunchucks.
Yeah.
I was just like, what the? Because don't get me wrong, like that was one of the funniest things that I've seen in like a clip or a trailer. One of the two.
Yeah.
I was just like, they're beating the shit. Like, okay, Kong. Yeah, 100% was the main focal point of this story. Like, Godzilla was almost like the side dish, comparatively. Like, Godzilla and then Jai were like the side dishes, basically, and everybody else was just like the garnish on those side dishes, essentially. Kong was definitely the meat of this.
This has been our food episode. Come back next week.
I also didn't like a lot of the transporting, like the Brazil scene. I thought was a little overkill. The transporting to Brazil at the end, it was just like, man, you guys are throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at me.
I can't hate that because it's literally what we want in these movies is monsters beating the shit out of each other. But like I agree. I mean, they could have easily been transported to another side of Hollow Earth or something instead of coming up to
or even just the introduction of like the transporting and stuff like that. It's like, man, are you guys taking a little dabble in some Fast and the Furious franchise talk? Like, are you going to put Godzilla and Kong in space now, or which?
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about it, but yeah, dude, no, nothing is going to be able to beat that Fast 9 shit. Just, I'd rather see Godzilla in space than a 79 Camaro floating.
In space.
Oh, God, it's terrible. Yeah.
What you got against Lucas Black, bro?
But I really do. I really did, man, enjoy a lot of the Kong scenes, way more than I did the Godzilla scenes.
No.
Yeah, and it's more of a Kong movie, like Ed said. I mean, or you said, Johnny. It's Kong is a central character in this, and this is his journey, and then Godzilla is a cameo essentially in this movie. Which,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you
but
just said,
isn't Mothra? I almost said Martha. Isn't Mothra a Godzilla character?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So see, yeah. I feel like taking that side piece and that journey out of this movie and keeping it in the Godzilla realm, I think that's what did it for me. Like, I think that's what just kind of made me like, come on, man. I was getting into the Kong stuff. I was getting into the Kong-like sequel, feeling the Kong vibes. And I'm like, I don't want any Godzilla sprinkled into this right now. I don't want any of this side journey with Jai, whatever the hell her name is.
I'm going to be honest with you, because if you look at this franchise, we've had 2 Godzilla movies by himself. We had 1 Kong movie. You could have easily made this Kong the New Empire and then saved Godzilla versus Kong 2 for, I think 2027. I think that you could have easily done that.
Oh.
I mean, so
and then at least this franchise is even. They each have 2 films.
But it's also just so much more Kong lore that we wanted and that we wanted to see, or at least I wanted to see. And this movie teased you a lot on it. And don't get me wrong, you got a lot of the Kong lore, but it wasn't the Kong lore that we deserved. If it makes sense.
Because I mean, don't get me wrong, they could have gone ahead if you cut out all of the Godzilla parts and all of the Shimo parts. Like, Scar doesn't have Shimo, but he's got the entire, Empire and all that in Hollow Earth. And Godzilla's like, we've got to get Kong. They're like, we got to get Kong back to Hollow Earth before Godzilla comes here, or something like that. Mention them all fucking day. Like, who cares about that? But no, I mean, I agree. Like, it could have been a Kong 2 Battle for Hollow Earth or New Empire or something like that. Exactly.
See,
but it just, I don't know.
That would have been genius, Ed. Keep it a Kong movie. Hype up Scar King. And I, be honest with you, I thought Scar King should have been a lot more vicious than he really was in this movie.
Other
tease Godzilla like off. Don't show Godzilla. Tease him like off screen, and then in the final fight, bring him in as a cameo. Look, wouldn't that be a lot better than what we really got?
I mean, maybe not a lot better, but it definitely would have been like, okay, this is a Kong movie.
But see, you guys,
Godzilla in it.
You guys enjoyed what the final product was. You enjoyed a lot of it. So, I'm just probably nitpicking, but I also was really digging the Kong vibes that it was at first giving off.
But when I think about it, like you said, this could have been a lot better than what it is.
And then just the human aspect of, let's learn and teach them how to play together, or just the human interaction to me is just so god awful at this point. Like I found myself not really wanting to pay attention to the human aspect of this movie. And then when the monsters were on screen, I was like, okay, let's go. I'm all in. So that's just me.
The only thing is with that is like you can't have 90% monster fight, 10% storyline. You know what I mean? Because that's only
again, I'm gonna point fingers to -1. Just didn't have that in -1. I also didn't have that in Godzilla 98. There's a lot of human interaction in 98.
There is a lot of human interaction in 98, but at the same time, both follow the same, not the same.
But I'm also saying that I liked Godzilla 2014 a lot. You only see the creature like 7 minutes in that movie, and I think that's a 10 times better movie than this one. So I'm not saying I need a 2-hour CGI fight. I'm just saying I need a little bit more love from the character development team.
Fair enough.
And that storytelling, like honestly, I think it's just really, but that's just my opinion. Like it's really like yawning moments for me in this movie.
Because I mean, they did forward Godzilla's character a little bit with the evolution.
Yeah, they did.
They forwarded King Kong's character a lot just because now he's like, oh, there are other me's out here. There's a whole fucking tribe of it. Oh my god, kind of thing.
And I thought his little infinity gauntlet was pretty cool too.
Yeah,
got a couple upgrades.
In my notes, I have Kong's Thanos glove. Yeah.
A couple of upgrades for that matter. Project Powerhouse, and then the Silver Tooth, or I forget what the hell he called it, but he
looked like a club owner at the end of the movie. He got he's got his bling on in his arm, and then his
just needed the suit and the 2 or 3 chains on, huh?
Yeah. And that little deaf girl, he's already got his little little bitches out there. So
I literally have in my notes at the end of the movie, Kingdom of Kong to the Planet of the Apes. So that'll be the next movie in that franchise.
But I mean, now with Kong, it's more of, okay, this is Kong's empire. With Zilla, it's taken over and showing them who he really, can be, is whatever. So I mean, there's a lot of promise in the future, easily.
I literally thought the Cairo fight, which I think is honestly one of the best parts of the movie, between Godzilla and Kong, he's fighting over the pyramid, between the pyramids. When he jumps off that ledge, I swear to God, I thought he was going to develop wings and fly towards Kong. I was like I would have been like, please don't do this, please.
Isn't there there's an old school Godzilla movie where he has wings?
I think so, yeah.
It
was surprising.
The wing thing did cross my mind, but at the same time, I'm like, there's not a water source that close, is there? Because literally it looked like he was about to dive into a water source, and I'm just like, what water source is that close? I'm like, I didn't think the Nile was that close. I'm like,
so Ed, you said that there leaves much promise into the next film in 2027. I am skeptical. I really do want to see a little bit more better story arc with the humans. So I'm interested to see what that movie is going to be. Is it going to be Kong by himself, Godzilla by himself, or another combination? Zach, I'll start with you. Where do you see this next installment going, and what would you like to see from it?
Before I answer your question, Ed, there is it's called Gigon. You remember this character?
Okay. Yeah.
So there is technically a Godzilla with wings. So it's not directly, but yeah. To be honest with you, man, I think we're gonna have to bring it back either to a Godzilla versus Kong movie where they fight each other, or bring more lore legacy characters from the Godzilla universe into this, whether it be Gigon or whoever else. I think there's like a huge like space monster with like diamond shoulder things. I don't know what the name of the character is, but I think if we're gonna continue this, I think we're gonna have to bring in more legacy Godzilla characters. Or,
I mean, honestly, because
Space Godzilla. If we're gonna go to space, we might as well just go do that. So that is a character from the Toho universe. So,
Ed, what about you? What would you like to see from the next installment, and where would you like to see the franchise go?
I would like to see it kind of center on one or the other, for that matter, a bit more, just to open up that the human interaction. I'm here or there on that. It's cool with me. I don't mind it, but at the same time, as long as it's story driven, that's where it comes into effect with me, or at least information driven. As long as it checks one of those two boxes, I'm all right.
Oh shit, tore it.
But at the same point, it's to me, like you said, it is a monster movie. It is a movie that you not necessarily just want to see two monsters beat the hell out of each other or kill each other.
Well,
but it's a monster movie.
Yeah, but case in point, Monarch did a perfect job of putting together very good human interactions, making it feel also like a little bit of a war movie with Godzilla and monsters sprinkled into it. So it can be done. Monarch did a very good job with it. It's almost like if you're not into the bullshit we're giving you here, we have Monarch on Apple TV. Go check it out. So maybe for me, the next installment, maybe turn Monarch into a centerpiece of the universe. Maybe give us a throwback film about Monarch. I know they're signed up for season 2, and I know it's an Apple thing. I don't know if it's any works with Max or Warner Brothers, but let me see some more Kurt Russell, and Kurt Russell's in it, right? He's the one that's in it. Yeah. Let me see more Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell and just the Monarch story. I dug that. I watched that any day over Godzilla times Kong, and keep math out of it.
It's going to be Godzilla divided by Kong squared. So.
Yeah. Godzilla pie Kong. Like the fuck?
Yeah.
Godzilla Kong pie.
Godzilla cream pied Kong.
Oh. Yeah, we all know you watched that movie, so.
Hey, there is the scene where Godzilla screamed and his mouth looked like a.
That's pretty true.
Am I the only one who thought that?
That's pretty true, bro. Okay. That's pretty true. Holy shit, yeah, that's pretty true.
Looked like a wet night on a Friday night by the street taco vendor.
Oh, 44th of May? Or Northeast 10th.
That's where the Godzilla comes into play.
Terrible.
But favorite scene besides Godzilla's mouth for me, I would have to say, like I said, all the Kong sequences where Kong is just ruling, kicking ass, discovering things. I love, like Zach pointed out, the scene where Godzilla's laid up in the Coliseum like a cat. Phenomenal pieces. Maybe use a little bit less CGI, and I would have liked to see a little bit more actual cinematography, maybe out in the open wherever they were at. But I dug those scenes a lot with Kong, and those are my favorite scenes. Ed, what about you?
I would have 3, one on each, and then one together. Kong, when he's facing the 3 apes with the little guy, that was pretty funny. Beating him around, and then all of a sudden picks him up and starts using him as nunchucks. Godzilla, I would have to say the Tiamat fight. That was pretty cool. And and then together, I would probably have to say them with Shimo at the very end when they actually finally defeated Scar. I would have to say that, because the little effects with Scar and then just taking him and just that was awesome. So those would be my three.
Zach?
I'll go any day. Anytime Godzilla's on screen, I'm gonna enjoy it, especially when he's like, curled up as like a cat in a coliseum. I thought that was like one of the coolest visuals in the movie. The fight between Godzilla and Kong in Cairo, Egypt, I thought was awesome. And honestly, a lot of people found it stupid, but the Kong tooth thing, a lot of people could have done without. I thought it was a fun character moment for the character. Human-wise, I like Brian Tyree Henry. I think he's a fun addition to this universe. Let's keep him around. So
there you go.
Were you guys, before we grade this out, were you guys pissed off because I got heard a lot about this by the trailer, because I really stayed away from trailers and everything. I wanted to keep going with an open mind and keep it fresh. Were you guys pissed off that Kong jumped on Godzilla's back and it was like a rodeo situation? Because a lot of people were pissed off about that.
That it was in the trailer or that it happened?
That
it happened.
I mean,
it's sooner or later before they start playing with each other.
God
there you go.
I don't know. I didn't mind it much. I thought it was a little weird at first, but I mean the
Scar did it to Shimo, so yeah.
The parallels. So there's that. Honestly, man, you bring up a good little thing, Zach. If I had to pick a human character that I thought was just grand, I'd probably pick Eileen Andrews, Rebecca Hall, for that matter. So
I'd pick Bernie. Bernie was pretty fun where it was at. He made the most sense out of any human character. So, star rating, guys. Let's Ed, we'll start with you.
4 out of 5.
I'm gonna give this one a 2. I think it's okay. It's not gonna be the first one I grab in this entire franchise. I thought it was a little overkill at times. But you know what? July 4th, it's going to be on Max, so you don't have to waste your money on it. Go check it out and go max it up. But I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. Zach?
I'm going to be in the middle. I'm going to do a 3.5. I think it's enjoyable. I don't think it's the strongest in this MonsterVerse legendary franchise, in my opinion. Still fun. Keep your expectations at the door, especially if you've just watched Godzilla -1. Just have fun with it. At the end of the day, that's what these movies are, and that's what I want. So watch all the movies.
Fast forward through the human scenes.
Yeah, watch all the, like you said, Johnny. This movie will be on Max on July 4th. Go watch the whole MonsterVerse franchise. It's on Max, so go max it up.
Hell yeah.
In the meantime,
and that's weird because Godzilla 2014 is on Netflix right now, but I guess that's leaving. That was already gone, I guess, and I guess they're all on Max now, like you said.
Yeah.
So, these whole streaming wars thing they've got to end. Damn it.
Give me content.
Yeah. Like I said, before we get out of here, you guys can find us on social media. Ed, besides your house, where else can they find you? You you don't have a public gamer tag or anything yet, do you?
I mean, technically, yes. I'm on PlayStation predominantly, but I mean, if you're gonna go with gamer tag, it's just Egias8497. It's really all it is.
So if you want to get to them, you got to get through me. Go through the social media, facebook.com/the Cine-Movie podcast. And there is where you can find all the links to this episode and all the episodes in the archives. But yeah, we should have a fun month of July, guys. Today started our Tuesday tradition, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Next up, we enter back through the world of Maxine. Next Tuesday, July 9th, 7 p.m., Maxine will have a complete conversation. Go check it out. It hits theaters this July 4th and July 5th weekend. So go check it out. You'll have 5 days to try to watch this movie, July 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then we'll come talk about it, a brand new movie on Tuesday, July 9th. So I think it should be a fun weekend. Hopefully, kind of trying to slowly kick the nods and start the fire to not only a A24 month in August, but also a spooky season kicking off early in September. So we're just a few months away from that. So other than that, guys, any big plans this weekend? 4th of July, starting off the day after tomorrow. Any big 4th of July plans this weekend, guys? What are you doing?
Not much, honestly.
As usual, probably going to the movies. I think we're going to catch A Quiet Place Day 1 and maybe Tickle Me 4. So
Tickle you 4? I don't want to tickle you.
tickle. Yeah, you do. Go here.
Yeah, busy weekend in the movies and the theaters. Despicable Me 4, Inside Out 2 is out. Quiet Place Day 1, Maxine. So I think I'm going to go to the theaters at least probably twice this weekend. So it should be pretty fun this weekend, guys.
As I was saying, you're going to take the kids to go see Despicable Me 4.
No, I'm going to take them to go see Maxine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Family-friendly entertainment.
There you go. And look at that cast. Honestly, looks like a really good cast. Ty West's final film in this X trilogy. So go check it out. Pearl, X, and then Maxine this weekend. So other than that, guys, I think that's it. We'll see everybody next Tuesday for another new episode of the Cine-Movie podcast.